Okay, this is the second lesson on numbers, and this is to do with break-even analysis. On the first lesson, can you remember we looked at profit, and profit was total revenue minus total costs, and we used the example of hamburgers, and we're selling a hamburger at £2, the variable cost was £1, the fixed costs were £200, and then we can work out various different profit scenarios from that. Well, here we're going to look at a thing called break-even analysis. Break-even analysis really does this via a diagram. Now, the first thing to know is there is a formula to it, and the formula is fixed costs divided by selling price minus variable costs. So here the selling price would be £2 the burger, the variable cost would be £1 the burger, and the fixed cost would be £200 for the fixed cost in terms of having a pitch for a day. Now, we can also say the selling price minus the variable costs is the same thing as the contribution. Now, this is a word that we use because every time you sell an extra burger, you are contributing towards paying your fixed costs. So selling price minus variable cost is equal to contribution. So you could also write out the break-even equation like that. Now, obviously, break-even means the point at which you break even, where your total revenue is equal to your total costs. So in this situation here, where the selling price is £2, the variable cost is £1, the fixed costs were £200, pretty easy calculation to make. The fixed cost £200, the contribution is £1, selling price minus variable costs, so your break-even point is going to be £200. But what does that look like on a diagram? It looks like this. Your fixed costs will always be a flat line because they do not vary with the amount of goods that you produce. So here, as the fixed cost of £200, we just draw a line at £200. Apologies for the diagrams, I know they're not that neat, but you'll get the general impression. So therefore the fixed costs are £200. The total revenue is simply going to be, if we sell no products, we're going to get no money. If we sell 500 burgers, we're going to get £1,000. Now, students will always ask, and they'll say, so on the last one I called you kids, my apologies. The students will always ask, well, where do you go from on this line? Well, you could go from say 300, then 300 times £2 will be £600. You only need 2 points. One point will always be at 0, 0, because if you sell no burgers, you'll get no money. And I've had to take the point of 500 units. Okay, so we've got that on there. The total cost line is a little bit harder, because if we sell 500 burgers, you may think 500 times £1 is £500. However, that's not the case, because you've got 500 times £1 is 500 plus the original £200 for fixed costs. So 500 burgers will actually cost you £700 to make. So you go to 500 there, and if you go all the way along there, that point on that diagram is £700. Okay, and there you go. We've drawn a break-even chart on there. Now, the big thing, the most useful thing about a break-even chart is that you can change all of your variable costs or your selling price or your fixed costs. So I've got 4 scenarios here. We've done scenario 1 up here. This is scenario 2, which is pretty straightforward really. I'm just saying, well, what happens if we increase the selling price to £3? Now, what happens on the diagram, I've drawn the same diagram again as up here, and I said if we increase the selling price to £3, then it's going to be 500 quid times the £3 here. So 500 times 3 is £1,500. And hey presto, your total revenue line has shifted upwards. Therefore, your break-even point is also decreased from 200 to 100, because obviously the contribution is also doubled. 3 minus 1 is £2. Okay, so if you change your selling price, and the total revenue line will also change, the other lines will stay exactly the same. On scenario 3, what I've done is I've drawn the previous diagram here with the new total revenue line in. I said, well, what happens if we increase our variable costs? Analysis, Continuing, and in this one we're going to change the variable costs from £1 to £1.50. Now that means if we do the break even, the calculation again, break even point is now 200 quid divided by £3 minus £1.50, which is 200 divided by £1.50, which comes out as 133. So your break even point is now that. Now what happens on the actual diagram is that the total cost line will still start there, because you've still got to pay for your fixed costs. Even if you produce nothing, you've still got to pay 200 quid. But now if we make 500 units, it's going to be 500 times £1.50. 500 times £1.50 will come out as £750. 750 plus the original £200 is going to come out as 950. So your total cost line is going to flip upwards. Now, if we just do it just for a second, imagine if the variable cost is only 50 pence, and then it's going to start there again, once again, obviously, but it's going to be 500 times 50p, 500 times 50 pence is going to be 250 quid. At 500 units is going to be £200 plus the 250 quid, is going to come out as 450, but your total cost line will be much less. To work out the profit level at that point with the old one, okay, with the old line, it's going to be 500 times 3 is £1,500. That will be the total revenue. The new total cost line at £1.50 is going to be 1,500 minus 950, and that will come to 550 quid. So that will be your profit there. However, obviously, if the burger only costs 50 pence, your total costs are only going to be £450. So 1,500 minus 450 is going to be 1,050 quid, and that is your new break-even point there. Okay, so what happens if we increase the fixed cost line? Now, in some ways it's dead easy to draw, because you just do, okay, your fixed costs go up from 200 to 300 quid, dead easy, but then your total cost line is also going to shift from there to there. And your new total cost line will be parallel to the old total cost line, because we haven't changed the variable costs at all. Okay, just in quick summary then, I've given you 4 different scenarios of break-even analysis, and you can change the selling price, the variable costs, or the fixed costs. And then next lesson we're going to have a look at advantages and disadvantages of break-even. Thank you. Okay, on this question we're still looking at break-even point, but I just want to make that link between break-even point and profits. You would have just seen the previous slides which were talking about the advantages and disadvantages of a break-even. Obviously, the big disadvantage is that we can only get one selling price out of the system. So if you run a restaurant, like if you're in a Chinese restaurant, then the duck may be 15 quid and the beef in satay sauce may be £5.49p. So therefore you've got to take an average of all the different prices, because this only works with one price. But the big advantage is you can change all the variables, and this just a very quick lesson here. I just want to show you the link obviously between break even and profit. So going back to Pierre's t-shirts again, which we're selling for, remember, we're selling for £9.20 and the variable cost is £3.79, which means a contribution of £5.41. But imagine if we increase the selling price to 12 quid and we kept the same variable cost, the contribution will then go up to £8.21p. Now, if you put that into a profit formula and you still sold as many t-shirts because you added value, so therefore you can charge a higher price because maybe you personalise a t-shirt or get David Beckham or Victoria Beckham to wear them, and then obviously the t-shirt is going to rise in price massively, then suddenly we get 9,000 times 12 quid, 108,000 quid. Take off the same costs again, we're going to get 25,890. Okay, or we can decrease the fixed costs. If we decrease the fixed costs, then our fixed costs will fall from 48,000 to 28,000, and hey presto, if we put the same formula in there, so we can raise the price and we can decrease the fixed costs, then our profits are suddenly getting up to 45,890 quid. However, just imagine also if we were able to reduce the variable costs. Great. So we then do 9,000 times £2.29, which comes out as 20,610 quid, which is far less than the £34,110. So suddenly this business is making 59,390 quid. Wowee. Previously, it was making, remember, £690. So there is a link. So this is how we can increase profit. And now I'm going to talk about break-even point. So we're having a quick look at the break-even numbers again, and Pierre believes his break-even point is too high, so how can he reduce it? Remember, we taught the same equation. The break-even point is equal to fixed cost divided by contribution. The contribution is equal to selling price minus variable cost, and here we're going to be faced with three different scenarios. So originally his break-even point is 48,000 divided by £5.41, and his break-even point was 8,872 t-shirts. And if you can remember, he was only selling 9,000, so therefore he was only making a very, very small profit. Okay, but then he decides to add value, and by adding value, you can then raise your selling price. So he now raises that to £12. Maybe he personalises the t-shirt, or he gets David or Victoria Beckham to wear his t-shirts. His contribution now rises to £8.21, so 48,000 divided by £8.21 comes out as 5,846 t-shirts he's got to sell. He's selling 9,000 though, so he's now making a reasonable profit of 25,890 quid. Or the third thing he can do to reduce his break-even point and also increase his profits is to reduce the fixed cost. So it's now 28,000 divided by £8.21. So his break-even point is now 3,410. At 3,410, if he sells 9,000 t-shirts, he's going to make a profit of £48,890. However, let's take the third scenario on here. So he reduces his variable costs to £2.29. So we've now got the break-even point is 28,000 divided by £9.71. His break-even point is now fallen to 2,999 units. And therefore his profit is 59,390 quid. Thank you. Now just draw a very quick break-even chart of the example that we've just been doing, pretending I'm Pierre and I'm making t-shirts. Right, so in this situation, I'm not going to do it in a French accent, by the way. So in this situation, I go 9,000 times 12 quid. So 9,000 times 12 quid is £108,000. I start at 0, 0 always. I sell no t-shirts, I get no money in. So I sell 9,000. There we go. That is the total revenue line. 9,000 t-shirts, £108,000. That's it. Easy peasy. The fixed cost line is 28,000 quid. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 108, 110. Right, so this is going to be roughly £30,000 here, and this is £28,000 here. So I draw a line across there, and those are my fixed costs. If I sell no t-shirts, I've still got to pay 28,000 quid. Right, and then I'm going to go 9,000 t-shirts times £2.29, which I think comes to about £20,000 610p. So 20,610p plus the £28,000. So 9,000 units is going to cost me 28,000 plus 20,610p. So that's going to be 30, 40, 50, roughly 50,000 quid, because it's going to be 28,000, 48,610. 48,610 is there. Remember, when I draw the total cost line, I always start there. Okay, I always start at that point. That is the total cost line, and that is 48,610p. Okay, my total revenue line came out at 108,000 quid. So the difference between those should be £59,310, which it is. So the distance between there and there is 59,390 quid, which is great. My break-even point should be roughly 2,799, which is, if I've drawn it correctly, which it doesn't look as if I have, but that will be my break-even point on there. And that is my break-even chart. What profit am I making at 7,000 units? I would literally draw it on here. So I go to 7,000 units, roughly there, and the difference between there and there the profit, I can read it off from the graph. That will be the difference, and that will be the profit on there. Obviously, I can work it out numerically. I do 7,000 times 12 quid, etc. Okay, but that is how I draw a break-even chart on the previous analysis that I've just done. So basically, if you want to reduce your break-even point, you reduce your fixed costs, reduce your variable costs, or increase your selling price. Now, all of those methods are also the same thing as increasing your profitability. Okay, thank you.